Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, your resource for all things business, brand, and leadership. We are excited you have decided to join us today.
Hey guys, welcome to the Elevate Podcast. I'm Robert Kalin here with my friend
Mike Newman. Great to be with you. Great to see you again, Robert. Hope everything's going well for you as we come into this holiday season. All of a sudden it's on us, isn't it?
I mean, we are a couple of weeks away, and then the new year is going to be here before you know it. And I love our topic for today. Mike, I'm going to let you take it. You came up with the topic, so.
It's always that time of year where I start reflecting. I don't know if it's the holiday season and trying to figure out what to do for Christmas gifts or what, but I always come to this point of begin this transition from the current year into the next year. And about this time of year, I start thinking about what are my goals for 2024 in this case. What are my goals for 2024? And there's some questions that I think are really important to ask ourselves as we do that. And so we're going to walk through some of these questions and talk about parts of it in detail, give you some tools maybe that will help you as you prepare for 2024. I think that when we are looking at doing something different, we've got to make changes in how we do it to achieve a different result. So if you're happy with the results you're getting right now in your goals and the progress that you're making, then continue with whatever that process is that you have. But if you're wanting to move to another level, you want to take that step to go further, to go farther than what you've done before, to expand your business, develop your brand further, expand your leadership, most of us have to do something different in the coming year than what we've done in the current year. So my 5 questions for us to think about are, number 1 is, what are your goals? And you can't really create new goals if you haven't defined what they are. And so Robert and I have had a conversation about this a little bit, but just give us, Robert, maybe a topic we can walk through these 5 questions with one of your goals for 2024.
Well, you put me on the spot with my goals here. So before we even maybe get into my goal personally, I think it might be worth looking at a couple of resources to just help people understand how they can maybe write down their goals. Because there's a couple of schools of thought. And the one that I really like is what's called a SMARTER goal. And SMARTER, I believe this was from Michael Hyatt, developed the SMARTER goals thing, or he at least uses it in his system. But with that, the SMARTER goals are an acronym for specific, measurable, actionable, risky, time-bound, exciting, and relevant. And so when you're thinking about writing your goals, you want them to be really specific because it's going to provide clarity and focus on what you want to achieve. You want them to be measurable. You want to be able to track them. You want them to be actionable, obviously, and then risky. This is one that really causes growth, because you need to grow to your goals. And so it's going to push you out of your comfort zone. You want them to be time bound because it's going to create a sense of urgency and motivation for you, as well as some accountability around that. Then you want them to be exciting, because if they're not exciting for you, why in the world are you even doing it?
Right.
And then relevant would be the last thing. So relevant goals, they align with you as a person, where you are right now, your values, your interest, and your overall purpose that you're pushing for. So you're designing a life that you want to live. So with that being said, one of my personal goals that I have for this year is to impact 100,000 people. And that's whether it's, through the Elevate podcast, through coaching, through my business at Elements, speaking engagements, various things like that. So it's a personal goal of mine. So by the end of 2024, I want to have impacted 100,000 people positively.
That's awesome. So you've got the goal, and I'm assuming you're using that SMARTER process that you have. In fact, where could somebody get that? Could they get that from you, Robert? Yeah.
So if you guys want to go to countercultureleadership.com Elevate Podcast. Sign up for the newsletter, and we will send that to you. We'll make sure that you get a worksheet that will help you walk through the process of creating smarter goals for yourself.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. You know, there's this process of writing things down. And so you've got your goal. Robert stated his goal. Now, the next step of what we recommend that you do in this question to ask is it written down? Because I ask people lots of times what their goals are, and they can tell me like that. You know, I want to increase my income by X amount of money. I want to own a certain piece of property. I want to go on this vacation. And then I was asking, do you have it written down anywhere? You see, when we write them down, it becomes more internalized, actually. And then it's something that you can revisit. So the second part of that question is it written down, and where is it written down? In the past, I used to have a book that or a journal I would write things down in. And one year I could never find my journal, and it was because I had not labeled it. But when I did uncover it, I went, wow, I did some really deep thinking around these things. But you know what? I haven't done this, I haven't done this, I haven't done this, I haven't done this. And so having it written down gives you the opportunity then to do some things where Robert was talking about it being specific, being measurable, being time bound, being exciting. You can kind of go through that checklist. And so that's a great tool that I hope that our listeners will be able to email you and countercultureleadership.com and pick that up, because it's going to be huge in moving you forward. You know, I was just listening last week. I stumbled across it. Somehow I get things from Steve Harvey and in my feeds. And Steve is, besides being a great television host on game shows, great person, great personality. He was actually, because in the background was the Family Feud logo and some people standing there, but he was talking to the audience. And he said, you want to know how you achieve great things in life? And he goes, you got to write it down. You got to write it down. He goes, there's not a thing I have achieved in life that I haven't written down some part. So if you know Steve Harvey's story, it's one of those classic rags to riches types of story where opportunity came his way. He stepped into that opportunity. More opportunities came. But he says every time it was written down, I had a vision about where I was going to go. So written down. And then, Robert, you talked about measurable. So you said in your description, I want to impact 100,000 people this year.
Yep.
So putting you on the spot again, which I'm always good at doing.
You are.
So you said through Elements, which is your business in downtown Puyallup. You said through speaking. You said through coaching, I believe. I said through your book because you had the. But do you have specific numbers related to each one of those?
I don't have specific numbers related to each one because mine's kind of an overall goal, but I am keeping track of the numbers with that. So how many people listen to the podcast, how many customers come through the store, how many people are purchasing the book. And of course, these are loose numbers. How many people are in the room when I'm speaking? They're loose numbers because you can't collect them all. But it's a good way for me to be able to kind of measure that and see where the impact's happening.
So see, when Robert has it measurable, then you can break it down even further than that. Okay, so when it's measurable, you're able to say, I've got 12 months to reach 100,000 people. Okay, so that's going to be just a little less than, if I can do math really fast in my head, but a little less than 9,000 people a month that you're going to touch. Or no, it's a little more than 9,000 people a month. Did I do that right?
I just did the math on my calculator here while you're talking. 8,333.33.
Okay. So now he's got that number. Now he knows what he needs to do. Now he can create some strategies to be able to reach that number. So it's great to have a goal, a big, hairy, audacious goal, as Collins likes to say in his book, Good to Great. But if it's not measurable and you don't have strategies to reach those measures, you're not going to be able to actually meet that goal. because when we break it down,
Mm-hmm.
but now, Robert, I'll take a little bit further. So you have those, okay? You know the number now, and now then the question is, what is going to be the strategy that you use in each of those? Because if we're intentional about what we're doing, we can reach our
Mm-hmm.
goals. If we just say,
Right.
well, I sure hope a certain number of people come in to the doors or attend the session I'm doing or listen to the podcast or whatever it is, being intentional, and that's why I asked you if you had it in specific areas, really makes a difference. So how would you be, just take one of those areas, how could you be more intentional in one of those areas to increase and track your numbers better?
Well, I would say number one is if I'm not promoting what I'm doing, like let's just take my book, for example. If I'm not saying, hey, I wrote a book and it's out there and you should get it, I think it could help,
Mm-hmm.
people aren't going to know about it.
Right.
Right. So one thing that I need to do is I need to be a promoter of the things that I'm doing that can help people. Um, Elements has organic coffee. And if you don't know, the reason why we do organic coffee is because we care about our customers. We want them to have a healthier lifestyle than just using conventional coffee. There's so many carcinogens in coffee that it would blow your mind. But when you go the organic route without the pesticides and herbicides and all of that, it's actually way better for your gut, and way better for your overall health. Um, and so, but if people don't know that, they're not going to, it's not going to differentiate us from any other market. And so making sure that we're really clear with our messaging in all things that we're doing that are going to land with the right people who are going to care about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so those are going to be the things that are going to help build our numbers, because when people know, then they can share it with other people too.
Right. Right. And so one of the things that we're doing here that we've talked about is, what's your goals? Are they written down? Are they measurable? And then the next one, which Robert's doing a great job of and putting himself on the spot here, is, have you shared them with somebody else? Have you shared them with somebody else? Because I can be real secretive about my goals. I could say, well, I want to reach
Mm-hmm.
100,000 people and impact 100,000 people, but I really don't want to tell anybody about it, because if I don't make my goal, then I don't have to be accountable anywhere. When you share that
Right.
with somebody, you can be accountable to them in a positive way. Sometimes we think of that word accountability as something that's negative, that you're going to be accountable. Whereas accountable is really just following through with what you said you're going to do. And
Yeah.
and so you've shared them with us today, but tell us about maybe some of the other places where you've shared, or you're planning on
Yeah.
sharing your thoughts about this.
Well, so I'll give you where this came from. So back in early November, I went to a conference in Orlando, Florida, and one of the exercises they had there was, hey, we want to take a piece of paper and we want everyone to write, what is your goal for 2024?
Mm-hmm.
What's your one goal for 2024? And the goal that I wrote was, I want to impact 10,000 people. And the next thing they did is they had people share it. And so I said it at my table. I said, hey, I want to impact 10,000 people. And someone called me out. They're like, you want to impact 10,000 people? That's kind of like a small number. That could be one podcast episode. That could be, I mean, you're aiming too small. And so I said, okay, well, I'll 10X it then. My new goal will be 100,000 people. And so that's where that goal came from. And I think it's really important too that when you do share your goals, that people around you can also challenge you with your goal and be like, look, that might be a little too small for you. I see you doing bigger things. I see you doing better things, more things. So it's another reason for accountability right there.
No, and I think that there are people who see things in us that we don't see in ourselves. And so somebody at your table there said, hey, you know what? You're bigger than 10,000. What can that number be? So having it being measurable, having it shared with somebody else, then becomes then the fifth question I really think that's really important for us is, what's going to be your follow-up plan? How are you going to determine whether you're making progress or not? Is it going to be quarterly? Is it going to be annually? Is it going to be, at mid-year, I'm going to take a look at my goals and see how I've progressed? Or are you going to monitor them on a more frequent basis? I really think that the more frequency you have in checking up on yourself is huge. A number of years ago, I did a program about having your best year ever, and had a very similar type of thing that we just talked about writing through. But what I had these guys do is I said, now what I want you to do, I gave them 4 pieces of paper, and I said, on the first page here, I want you to write down your goals and where you think you will be at the end of the first quarter. And then on the second page was mid-year. Where do you think you'll be at the end of the second quarter of the year? And then the third one was the third quarter course. And then the fourth one is, what do you believe you will have really accomplished in that particular year? And so, of course, we're in a really positive environment, and people are supportive of everything. And then I gave them all 4 envelopes. I said, you need to put your address on these. You need to fold up what you just wrote. And in the corner of it, you need to write 1, 2, 3, and 4 for each quarter. And then I'll mail these to you for your own accountability. I said, I'm vested in you being a success, but more important than me being vested in you and being a success is you being vested in you. So I built in for them a quarterly checkup. And, a few people responded after the first one and go, wow, thanks for the reminder. And then, and as they had that opportunity to do that, when you get a letter from yourself in your own handwriting and you haven't really thought about it for a while, you go, what is this? And then you open it up and go, oh, yeah, this is what I said I was going to do. How am I doing? So that may be a way that you just send a letter to yourself as a follow-up on a basis, or there's something in your calendar that causes you to reflect, or you create in 2024 a new thing where one Friday afternoon a month that you, if you're able to, you find a place to go and sit down where it's not your noise, it's not your business. You sit down and review your goals of where you're at, what strategies you've accomplished, and where you're going to go. I do know that when I have the best successes in my life, I follow those 5 steps. When I fall short, it's because I shortchanged one of them. And so I encourage you to reach out to Robert with the email to us on, say that again, because I always mess it up. So.
Yeah, countercultureleadership.com/elevate podcast.
So you can do that, or you can email Robert directly at
admin@countercultureleaders.com.
Counterculture. You don't know how many emails I've sent to Robert at countercultureleadership.com that comes back to me.
I don't know how many that is either because I haven't gotten them.
All right. Well, as we wrap up today, Robert, what else would you like to add in here about preparing for 2024?
I think you did a great job just capping that off for us, Mike. I think, when I think of my life too, the most success that I've had has been following those 5 questions, following the process. It can be challenging. Maybe this is your first time and you haven't even thought about doing this before, or maybe you thought about it, but you never followed through. I want to encourage you right now, do it. Do the 5 steps. They're super easy. They're in the description below. If you're listening to this podcast, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just follow them. Really easy. Shoot us an email. We'll make it even easier because now you'll have access to, something that will allow you to walk through it pretty simply and have it to put up on your vision board, have it to put up on your wall, have it to put where you can look at it and see it on a regular basis. So you guys, I'm proud of you where you are right now. And I know there's more in the tank. 2024 is going to be an amazing year. Just follow the 5 steps.
All right.
With that, we'll see you on the next one, guys. Take care. God bless.
Thank you for joining us. Our hope is this episode has been helpful for you today. If it's impacted you in some way, we encourage you to share it with someone. To receive a direct notification of our next episode, click the follow button on your favorite app or platform. You can also watch each episode on YouTube. The links are in the description. If you want to connect with us on a deeper level, go to countercultureleadership.com/resources. We'll see you next week on the Elevate Podcast.